Hi-Fi Rush was one of the most well-received games of the last year, and actually of the last couple of years, by both critics and the public alike. So you can imagine the look of shock and horror on everybody's faces, mine included, when it was announced a couple of weeks ago that the Xbox decided to shut down the studio that created Hi-Fi Rush, and also the Evil Within franchise, which is, in my opinion, one of the best horror franchises in the last couple of years. And I was completely in shock. I couldn't believe it because I really, really love these games. For example, Evil Within has been part of my life pretty much since it came out like 10 years ago. And like, given the success of Hi-Fi Rush, I also was very confused. But it is very important to talk now about the revival of Hi-Fi Rush. I think it is amazing that the game is revived by Krafton. Basically, the whole studio was bought by Krafton, which is a company that produced games like PUBG. And I think it is really great that it is basically being revived because I think this game is amazing. And also, like, this whole thing about like big corporations shutting down studios just without notice, without, it's kind of like the same thing in the movie industry with Disney Plus or like Max, HBO, basically just deleting movies from existence, even like fully completed movies being erased in like the name of like tax cuts and that kind of stuff. I feel is completely wrong and just an insult to art in general. And I know I'm a little bit late to the party. This is like old news from last month, so it's basically like prehistory at this point and like how fast the internet goes. But I had to put my 2 cents on it because I just really, really like these games. And this is one of my favorite game studios of all time. I also played Ghostwire Tokyo, which is great. Not as great as the other ones, but I feel like this studio, basically created by the creator of Resident Evil and the Evil Within series, Shinji Mikami, showed a lot of promises. So I thought it was weird first that he left the company. I think it was like a year ago or something like that. And then suddenly we hear now that it was shut down. But now that it's revived, I feel like now I can breathe a little bit better. We will likely get Hi-Fi Rush in the future now. I basically got so sad because last month I thought it was going to be gone forever. So it is important to just talk about, yeah, the consequences and what I think is going to happen from here. So according to the IGN article, Krafton bought the studio Tango Gameworks because they believed in the potential of the franchises that it has. So the decision for Xbox to shut down the Tango Gameworks was also one of several other studios that got shut down. For example, Arcane, the creators of Prey, Dishonored, some of Deathloop, some other games that also are also all in the umbrella of Bethesda Game Studios. I feel like this was a very weird choice, but it's also understandable based on also the poor performance of games such as Redfall, which came out last year, and I thought it was terrible. Everybody universally agreed that the game was a mess, and so they shut down the studio that made the Redfall 2. But it doesn't make sense in the cases of The Evil Within and Hi-Fi Rush and some other properties that were really successful and really good. And I think this has to do with just like these corporate scumbags just not understanding what happens in the gaming community. Like they just care about money, care about like profits. So they go around shutting studios, shutting games down, and that is just not good. I feel like it's important also to like indie studios, if they get bought by a big corporation, they might run into that risk that basically everything is going to shut down because even if their game is successful, just for monetary reasons alone. So it kind of makes sense why Krafton decided to say, you know what, we're going to buy this studio because we believe in the potential of Hi-Fi Rush, of Tango Gameworks as a whole. And that is very good. I think they understand that this game was very well received. They can make a lot of money, especially if they actually charge for the game instead of putting in a Game Pass as Microsoft did. I feel like they didn't really believe in the game at first, so they put it straight in the Game Pass. And that's part of an overall theme I talked about in the past about how these streaming services are just basically like a hammer towards art. They just, like, for example, the way Netflix is replacing screenings and movie theaters. I would have loved to see, for example, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio in the big screen, but the way the world is changing towards streaming, towards everything fast, everything's mass produced, just makes a lot of bad decisions like this one. And another reason I wanted to make this video is right now is because of the article that came out, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, where the director of the game, Shinji Mikami, which was the director of Tango Gameworks, I don't know right now if he's back in the studio or not because I heard a story that he left the studio. He commented on the whole situation. He said that as long as they made Hi-Fi Rush games, he thought the studio would be safe. But like I said before, because these corporate suits just make these decisions like left and right, they don't understand actually what drives the gaming culture. So like the studio wasn't safe, you know, even if the games were successful. But Krafton believed this. He mentions that in the article, in the interview, and I totally agree. I feel like it's important to know which products are good, which deserve like to be continued, and which ones deserve to be discarded. I totally understand it in the case of Redfall. I feel like the best indicator is just the way gamers vote with their wallets, the review scores, how a game is received, and that makes companies also make better games. And we get masterpieces like Hi-Fi Rush or also building on things that work. Like, for example, I don't think it's a bad thing to take a concept, for example, like all the Resident Evils or all the, like games in the Call of Duty series and just keep doing more of them. If it works, if it's fun, then yeah, that's exactly what gamers want. So anyways, the reveal that Tango Gameworks was going to come back just made me really, really happy. I feel like Hi-Fi Rush just became a really important part of me last year, and I really hope to see a sequel or maybe a couple sequels because it was just so fun and there was a lot of potential in this universe and these characters. So anyways, these are all my thoughts on the situation. If you like the video, please subscribe, and that'll be all for today. See you later.